This is Pace the Nation.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Pace the Nation, broadcasting back here at Studio 1A here in downtown Arlington, Virginia, in the heart of all things, Julie. It's Clarendon, of course. I'm your host, Chris Farley, back again for another great episode of Pace the Nation. Julie, we are back and a little different today. A video element, if you're watching us here, wherever you get this video of us here on StreamYard. Julie, let me introduce you. How you doing? What's up?
I'm great. I'm still not in the heart of the universe in Clarendon, but in the heart of, in the county, in the heart of the universe in Arlington. So
I feel back at home. For our longtime listeners, Clarendon, it just is. There's just something about Clarendon. There's something about Arlington that that makes Pace the Nation. It's Pace the Nation's home. So we are back, and I want to give some explanation here, Julie, what we're doing here. If you're watching us here on StreamYard or whatever platform you're seeing us, we're trying a new platform today. Really excited about it. I got a buddy really helping us out, and so we're going to try this audio and video element to the show, which I think is going to take us to the next level. So we're going to work on our backgrounds. Yours is just kind of a black background.
I at least got the clutter out. Okay. So there was a lot of stuff on the walls. So not a distraction. You, on the other hand, have a very large distraction behind you, but I guess we'll talk a little bit about that.
We'll talk a little bit about that here in a moment. But before we do, we're excited about the future Pace the Nation. We're excited about these new elements that we're going to introduce over the next few episodes. But before we do, we got to give a big thanks to our friends over at Podville Media Studios, who were phenomenal over the last 6 episodes, getting us through, the first part of this transition. And now we're going to evolve here. But those guys, Shannon, Oscar, our guy, Rob, who was our producer and editor, and the whole crew over there were just phenomenal. So big thanks to those guys. We learned a ton from Podville Media Studios. We're going to take a lot of that, of what we learned. And those guys are still going to help us in the background. And so really excited that we have them as an asset, but we're going to evolve back into the studio. Studio 1A was kind of sitting dormant. And for those who walk by our Clarendon store location, it was getting dusty and
it was
dirty.
Always dusty, Chris. Let's not kid ourselves. It needs a serious clean job. So that's one of the reasons I'm still in our house and haven't returned to the studio yet, is because my anxiety is too high in that dirty space.
So we're going to get it cleaned up. Yeah.
We're going to get it cleaned up.
Backgrounds. We're going to do a lot of things.
Okay. This year, I feel like 2021 was a year of exploration and experimentation for us. And launching into 2022, our fans and listeners are going to have to hold us accountable to consistency with the show, showing up with episodes in the way that we used to, and the way that we're good at. So we're going to be launching in January, I think, with some new logos and branding and new gear and this new platform. So we have to be held accountable. We're going to hold each other accountable, but we're hoping everyone holds us accountable too. So we're excited.
And I think this is a little bit of a foreshadowing on today's show. I think it's important to put ourselves out there and say you're going to do something. Yeah. And podcasting every other week for you, who's super busy, mom of 3, who does all the work with the kids, let's be honest, full-time job with Brooks, and you're back working. But I think saying what we're going to do and then actually following through and doing it, that's important. So we're going to put ourselves out there every other week. We've got some exciting guests lined up. I'd say today's guest is not really exciting, but we'll get into that in a second.
Today's guest is going to knock it out of the park.
But we got some exciting guests.
It'll be the number 1 show of 2021. There wasn't a lot to choose from, but it'll definitely be in the top 10.
It should be. So we've got an exciting lineup after today. we've got a remote broadcast in Texas that we're going to do. That's really exciting. We've got somebody who you work with who's going to be on the show. So just some teasers in the future. We've got some really cool stuff happening on Pace the Nation. New gear too. Did I mention the new gear? New logo, new gear. So you'll be able to get that on runpacers.com as well. So that's where we've been. That's where we're heading. But for today's show, we've got an exciting guest, a very exciting guest, and you're going to do the heavy lifting of the interviewing today.
I am. You're going to have to test my skills.
Are you nervous?
Considering how often I talk to this guest, I really hope I'm not that nervous, but
all right, well, the
video element is the one real change here. So maybe that gets my nerves going a little bit.
Well, the guest today is me. Yes. So we ended the drama. Today, you're going to interview me about my breaking 3. The New York City Marathon happened a couple weeks ago. I ran my 23rd consecutive year, of running sub 3 for the marathon. Squeaked in there this time, and it was tough, but it was an amazing experience, and I'm happy that you're going to be talking to me about it today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you've gotten enough run on this sub 3 effort with your video crew and your photographer and your updates on social media and LinkedIn and the amount of people who are reaching out to. I don't think we've talked about it enough. So I would like to dive in a little bit further.
I tell my team, I'm embarrassed. Don't make it about me.
I'm embarrassed, except our next podcast guest is me.
And by the way, go check out runpacers.com. Look on the front page and see who's on the front page. Check it out right now.
Is that a humble brag or a not so humble brag?
You can pause. Go ahead. Pause the show. Go to runpacers.com. Okay. Check out the front page. It is.
We'll provide a link, actually. Maybe write a banner across if you want to see Chris Farley's face again.
Yeah. But it was an amazing event, pretty emotional for me. So we'll get into that. But next up, Julie is going to interview the guy who's run a sub 3 hour marathon since 1999, Chris Farley. He joins us next here on Pace the Nation.
Pace the Nation is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
All right, welcome back to the program. And now, Julie, we are excited to be joined by me.
Wait, aren't I supposed to be?
Yeah, go ahead. All right, why don't you take a shot at it? Go ahead. Take us back in from the break.
Welcome back to the program.
There you go.
And now, Chris, I'm excited to introduce our next guest. I am not going to give you his full title. He's just the streaker, the guy who loves running 3-hour marathons, just under 3 hours.
Yep.
We're going to get into it with him today. Welcome to the program, Chris Farley.
Nice work. You're going to take my job as the lead interviewer. Thank you for having me. Yeah, really excited to talk about
me.
The streak. Yeah. But it was an amazing event, and thanks for everybody who helped, kind of tell the story along the way. Mostly thanks to you, though, Julie, because you had to put up with me training for this dumb thing. Not dumb thing. It's an amazing accomplishment that I'm very proud of.
Are you going to let me interview you now?
Yes.
Or do you want to just start monologuing? We can do that, too.
Go ahead.
Okay. For our fans listening that may not know, that may have been hiding under a rock the last few weeks.
Yep.
You ran your 23rd sub 3-hour marathon in a row in consecutive years, should I say.
Correct.
Not just 23 in a row. We didn't do 23 marathons in 1 year.
No.
23 years in a row. It's a pretty incredible streak. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the streak first. How did the streak start? Did you do a couple of marathons and you were running under 3, and then you're a couple years in and you kind of wanted to keep it going. Like, how did the streak actually start?
So I ran my first marathon in New York, 1999. And, this has probably been told on this podcast before, but, for a lot of the new listeners, ran my first marathon in 1999, had no idea what I was getting into. So, had an amazing experience, and the marathon and I immediately clicked. It was hard. I hit the wall at mile 20, like many do, but I was able to somehow, come through the experience and actually run fairly well. So, broke 3, had no idea whether I'd run, 2:42 or 3:42, and I ended up running, around 2:40 in that first marathon. And I said, wow, this was just awesome, because it was something I wasn't sure I was going to be able to do, but it was also just like the energy of the event, especially at New York. It's like a parade, a 26-mile parade with so many people out there cheering you on. So I did that, and I said, you know what, this is going to be my thing. So I was going to run, a couple marathons a year. I was still training hard. And that took me to about 2010. And I remember it, 2010, I ran the Philadelphia Marathon, and it was like the last, I knew my fast running days were over, because I ran 2:44 there. I'd run, in the 2:30s prior to that, but I could tell where this was headed. I said, it's going to be hard to continue to run a PR. So we're just going to call it what it is. Breaking 3 hours is a good mark. And I looked back at all my marathons, and I said, wow, I've done it every year. And I needed a new goal. So I said, in 2011, I'm going to break 3. And at that point, that'll be my 12th in a row. And then I did it. And then I did in 2012. Then I did it. And then, it just from there on out, it became my motivation to run. I'd set myself a new goal that was hard enough for me to accomplish, but still within reason. You and I getting married and kids and all that stuff, still within reason to be able to do all the other things that I was doing.
Well, I'll be the judge of whether it's within reason.
True.
Tell us about some of the locations you've done the marathon in.
So New York has been the biggest for whatever reason. Maybe it was because of my first, or the fact that it's a unbelievable experience with the parade-like atmosphere for 26 miles. I've done that 6 times. Marine Corps, I've done 4 times, and that's been obviously my hometown, Arlington. We talk about Arlington all the time, so that was a big part of the streak. I tend to do the bigger races. I've done DC Rock and Roll a couple of times. I've done Boston a few times. New Jersey Marathon, amazing. Our team puts on an awesome event there. Chicago a couple times. I believe the smallest one I did was Breaking 3 in 2017, where I was the only participant. And that's where this
the only full participant.
Full participant.
It took a village.
Yeah,
it took a village.
And you can go back and listen to episodes about Breaking 3, but I generally do bigger events, and it's been fun because it's it kind of takes us to you're nice enough to go with me on most of these. To Savannah, we did an event there. To Boston, to New York, to New Jersey, to Chicago, to LA. I mean, all these places have been really fun to run.
Tell us about the asterisk year.
So 2006, and my dear friend and former co-host on the show, William Dox. If it wasn't for him, the asterisks wouldn't have come
exist.
Up. Yeah. So in 2006, I had run. I was training hard. I had run a training run of 26.2 miles under 3 hours. So that was one thing. I remember telling Kellen Sung that and looking back at my logbook. So I said, you know what, there's 2 things here. I ran that as a training run, because he was asking me I think he was interviewing me for a Washington Post article. And then that fall, I didn't feel like I was ready to run as fast as I'd hoped. So buddies of mine decided we signed up for New York, and we decided to do 5 beers and 5 boroughs. So you start in Staten Island, you drink a beer. I don't know the boroughs of New York. I mean, I know there's Queens and Brooklyn. I don't know the order of it, but we had bars set up along the way where every borough we would stop and have a beer. So drank a beer at every borough, and my actual finish time was 3:30 for 2006. But my running time on my watch was 2:56:23.
Wow.
So, and by the time you drink 5 beers and run, and this was a different place in life. I was a lot fitter, and but you're buzzing pretty good. But it was an unbelievable experience to finish the race. Kind of buzzed, and to run 2:56 on my watch. So that's the asterisk, because every other result, as you know, you can find anything on the internet. So you can find all my results. The one result in 2006, you cannot find my training run, which I broke 3 hours in a 26-mile training run. And you can't find my actual running time. For those listening, I'm doing this like I'm clicking my watch to start and stop my watch on my wrist. But for those with the video element can see that, so they understand what I'm doing. So that's the asterisk. And let's be honest, Julie, I'm going to count it, because I did run under 3 hours, and I need this. I need this. I need something to motivate me,
I understand. The guys that you did 5 beers, 5 boroughs with, did they give you credit for this?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that's all that matters.
Good buddies who actually, a lot of them worked at Brooks at the time, and they've since moved on. I think actually Mike obviously still, he's one of the VPs at Brooks. I shouldn't be putting him out there. I won't say his last name. Doing 5 beers, 5 boroughs. He would not do that today, but he ran with me, and he was, super fit and ran the same time that I ran that day too. Awesome experience. I'm going to count it. No asterisks needed.
Love it. Okay. So how many years do you have left in you doing this? This year, I think, was hard, right? It was hard. Right. And we'll get into that. We'll get into the actual specific race details, but how many more years do you have? Okay. You're 45 now.
I don't know.
3 kids.
It's a good question.
A grumpy wife.
Yeah, right.
About your training runs.
It's a good question. I have gotten to the point, and I'm very proud of this stat. I love numbers and stats and splits and all that stuff. I'm 45 years old. For 22 years of my life, I have not run a sub 3-hour marathon. For 23 years of my life, I have run a sub 3-hour marathon. So for more time that I've existed on this earth, I've run I've run a sub 3-hour marathon. So that sounds like a good ending point, right? But
23 is an odd year, though.
Yeah, it's an odd year. So we got to get to 25 for sure.
Well, you have to. You owe it to me, because we need to go somewhere extravagant for your 25th marathon.
Yeah. So I think
Honolulu.
I think a quarter of a century.
2023. Okay, Honolulu, December 2023.
Yep.
And 25 years.
Yeah.
I'll bring some sparklers for you to celebrate.
Yeah. So I think at least 25, but you know what? As long as my body, and I'm so blessed that I stay relatively healthy and injury-free, as long as my body will allow, I'm all in for this. I gotta give it a shot. I mean, there's nothing like, for me, showing up to the line and being like, all right, you've put work in, whether the work's been good enough or not, we're not sure, but you put a lot of work in, and here's your chance to perform on this day at this moment. And it's very clear whether you accomplish the goal or not. And I really like that, because there's not many things like from a competitive group of people like you and I and a lot of our listeners who are runners. You don't really get that after, you're done competing in high school for your cross country team.
No, a lot of us like let it go.
I know. Yeah. Well, I can't let it go. So to answer your question,
well, you're making up for the glory days that you wanted to have, right?
Yes,
So you're
right.
recreating the glory days
There's
year
a
in
lot
and
to,
year
yeah.
out.
I mean, I don't want to psychoanalyze this, but yeah, I think you're
I
onto
will.
something.
I will.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about New York City. So especially when we're talking about the training not going as well as it probably could have, entering into race day this year, there were a lot of obstacles. And I'm not even just talking about like the fact that you were doing peak training when I was peak taking care of our newborn. Not bitter at all. It's totally fine. I was 100% on board. Always, right, Chris?
Right. You were 100%.
Yeah, so leading into race day, I mean, half your runs this fall have been with a really sore knee, like you're walking around and you don't listen to me or doctors or anyone who tries to advise you otherwise when it comes to injury. You just plow through like you're a professional plower. You plow through and somehow on the other end of you plowing through, the body like miraculously comes together.
A lot of it is, I mean, it's
It's
mindset. I think it's
psychological.
mindset.
You manifest it. You're just the most positive person on the planet. And I'm actually not kidding about that. But you manifest it. So you're like, oh, I'll make it to the starting line. It's fine. But this year, sleep deprivation, new baby, the dynamic in our home has changed. Work is stressful. Work is great, but work is stressful. The knee was a little bit banged up. You were squeezing runs in. And then like 3 days before New York, you come down with this like horrible cold.
Yeah. I mean, it was like a head cold that, you can run through. And so I'm doing all this
but your
research.
breathing is affected. Like you're already riding a really like thin line going into this. Like you're training, you maybe did like a couple of up tempo runs. You did the long runs. But you're 45. So like you need more interval training to really guarantee that you're going to hit this.
Yeah. And so, I had all those factors, and it was like, I was going down this negative train of thought too, which.
Oh yeah. You were on the train. I was on the train coming home from New York for an event with Brooks. You're on the train going up to New York for the race. We literally passed somewhere in Delaware, waved to each other, sort of. And you're like, I don't think I can do this. Like you were in bad shape.
So literally and figuratively, I was talking about the train of thought, and then I was on the train thinking like, I'm heading up there. This is going to happen. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. I'm on my computer on the Amtrak Googling, can I take what's the sleep medication, NyQuil before running a marathon. So that's never a good
good idea. Not a good idea.
So I didn't. I took NyQuil the night before.
2 nights before.
2 nights before, but I didn't take NyQuil the night before. So so it was kind of some negative, and I just think positive mental attitude can affect your performance. So I remember talking to you a couple of times. And I'm like, I just got to turn around and I just got to be positive. There has been a lot. I mean, all jokes aside, like I'm getting up on Friday mornings because that's the only day I can do these long runs at 5, running in the dark, running from our house in Arlington, meeting my buddy in Vienna, Chris McGarrigle, he says he's 90% of the reason why I was able to do this.
Thanks for giving me credit, Chris. I hope you listen to the show.
Right. Well, you're the other 8%. I'm 2%. So I'm running from Arlington at 5 a.m. to Vienna to meet him at about 6. And then he and I run together for 8 miles, and then I run back. And those are my 18 to 20 some mile runs. And that is squeezing them in before we got to get the kids to school at 8:30. So this isn't some like, Saturday, let's take half the day or the full day to do a long run.
No, you don't have that luxury.
That stuff. So, it's a different time, and there was some different, issues that as you get older, you got actual responsibilities, and you can't center everything around our running. But I just, by the time Saturday night before the race hit, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this, and all this other stuff be damned, I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah,
And so that was my
marathon
attitude.
mood. Yeah,
Yeah,
you've been around the finish line. You're hanging out in the one of the hotels that has all the runners, and
I got to thank my buddies at New Balance. Tom Carlio and Keith Kelly. I see them the day before. They're fired up for me. They're excited to be there. It is the whole. I mean, and that's one thing about New York. It's the entire atmosphere. It's the pageantry of the event. It gives you an extra boost. So once Saturday night came along, I said, all right, I'm going to make this happen. And that's the attitude I had to take.
Okay, but then Sunday morning comes around.
Yeah.
So and it's a whole different situation.
So Sunday morning comes, and my buddy Ross, who owns Philly Runner, and I were going to run together. And he's a former elite runner who is just trying to break 3 hours. And we're going to find the 3-hour pace group, and we were going to do it. I leave my phone in the hotel room, and I go down and I meet Ross. I've got this fancy, watch that I can text from, the Apple Watch that I can text from, and I'm texting him. I'm like, where are you? Because typical of me, I had depended on him to tell me where to go.
We all know that you're directionally challenged. I think I pointed out like every fourth show.
So at 10:30, the race starts. At 6:00, you have to catch a bus to get to Staten Island. And it's a logistical challenge. If no one's ever run, if you haven't run New York before, it's an amazing event, but a logistical challenge. I didn't know where to meet the bus, and the bus leaves at 6 a.m. sharp. So I go to this where I vaguely remember. I don't remember the exact street, but I vaguely remember. And I try to get on. I see some familiar people that you work with, like agents and professional runners. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to plow, like the term you used. I'm going to plow my way onto this bus. I don't care. It's the elite bus with all like the African runners.
All the runners who are like contending for the championship.
Right. Yeah. 210 or 220 on the women's side. Like literally the fastest runners in the world. And I'm like making my way on the bus and trying to like pull my shirt up and act like nobody knows who I am. Or like, just, look the other way, don't notice. And I was just going to grab a seat. No seats available. The guy's like, are you an elite? And he looked at me and he knew I was an elite. I didn't look elite for sure. So I said, it depends on your definition of elite.
You did not say that.
Yeah, I did. So he shuffles me off the bus, and then I see this guy, Sam, who's like, can I help you out? And Sam, he works with New York Roadrunners, I think.
Mm-hmm. Sam Gottwald.
But I haven't talked to him. I've met Sam before, but Sam. So Sam saved me because I was like, I'm with New Balance. I'm a VIP, try to toss that. He's like, this is for only elites. They're not even going where you're supposed to go. So he makes a call and he finds out where to go. So I race down 2 streets down the street. The bus fortunately didn't leave till 6:05. So I got there in time, jumped on a bus, never saw my buddy Ross. But then I hop on the bus, the correct bus, and make our way to Staten Island.
And for those who have never run New York before and don't understand the logistics of it, if you miss that bus, you miss the race.
You miss it. There's no Uber you can take. Yeah, you can't take it. The entire city's shut down. And right. These guys have, they have
access to get out there.
To get to Staten Island across the bridge. So there is a way, but it's like you'd have to go around the city. It is like an hour and a half
through New Jersey.
Yeah, it's an odyssey to get there. So I was considering that and thinking, all right, I got to go get my phone, Uber. What am I going to do with my phone? But anyway, so I make the bus. I get off the bus.
Which also, just to shout out to New Balance is like,
totally.
And the way that VIP's races work for, different sponsors and different events, like they do so much to coordinate you getting there.
Oh, this was not New Balance.
So like
fault.
you're
This is my fault.
you're in the hotel, they give you all the information, everything you need. You just need to be you literally just need to be in this spot when the bus leaves, and it's a block away, right? Everyone else going to the race, like it is a logistical nightmare.
Those are the
and
things.
You have the VIP, just have to get yourself out of bed and a chai tea latte and get to the bus.
Those are the things that
and
don't that it just
it.
those are the things. It's crazy. Like those are the things that I should really concern myself with.
Yeah, because people who are trying to get to the starting line for a marathon, everything is so calculated.
Regimented.
Like, and you're literally like, alarms going off, like, I'm just gonna walk to the first bus I see. And like,
Correct.
I honestly, if your bus had left, 100% you would have figured out how to sit on that elite bus, gone back and be like, this is my only shot.
And I would have been on the starting line, and like all the photos, they've got all the skinny elites.
You're in the wrong corral.
The middle-aged fat guy, not fat guy, but the middle-aged guy there who looks out of
middle-aged clown on the start.
Right. So fortunately, I get to Staten Island. I get off the bus, and in the spirit of everything just working out for me, I walk out. They lead us towards the VIP area, and the first person I see is my buddy Ross Martinson, who owns Philly Runner. And he's like, "Hey, how are you doing?" I was like,
and Ross is the most casual person, so he probably was literally just like, "Hey,
okay,
good morning.
Cool. So
how are you?
So
how'd you get here?"
we go to this beautiful VIP tent and hang out for a little while. And if you haven't done New York, you've got to get in the corral, and then you got to get in the corral about an hour and a half early. So we get in the corral, and then they move you forward. So we get to the starting line, and Ross and I see the 3-hour pace group in front of us. To our right, we see where the elites were, where all the VIP, the real VIPs are literally just to our right. And over there, first person I see to my right is Matt James on The Bachelor.
Wait,
from The Bachelor.
You didn't tell me this story?
Yeah. So I see Matt James.
Was Tyler Cameron there? Like
I didn't see him, but he was there. He was there too. So they're like literally right there. And then I see Willie Geist of Sunday Morning Show. And once upon a time, Willie Geist and I worked together in a different world, 1999. I worked for CNN SI in Atlanta. And Willie Geist was there, and he is a star on the Today Show now, does weekends and does weekday stuff as well. But he was running his first marathon for the Michael J. Fox Foundation. So we start the race, and so I have my eyes on Geist, who, again, I worked with really. I wish I had a picture with this guy from long ago to prove that I did work with him. So he's running.
I would love to see you like come up next to him in the first like mile or two and just like hold this like old Polaroid of you and Willie.
So I go up to Willie, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm Chris Farley. I worked with you 20 some odd years ago at CNN SI." Meanwhile, he's starting his first marathon, probably trying to soak it all in on the bridge. And he's like, "Who's this guy? Who's this guy? What is he?" And then he looked
Why
at
are
me.
You talking to me?
And I feel like it registered with him. I feel like it did.
You wanted it to register.
I wanted it to. So that's going to be the story that I remember and I tell our kids someday.
Okay.
That he did see me and registered and remembered who I was. So he was super nice. He was like, "Hey, good luck." Gives me a fist pound, and he's locks into his. He ran great. He ran just under 4 hours, which is amazing for a first marathon for a guy who wasn't a runner. But so fist pound, and Ross and I go on our way, and we lock in with the 3-hour pace group. And it was
tell us about the actual. I mean, I think when I talked to you afterwards, you were like, "This is the hardest one I've ever done."
Definitely. So it was a different experience because I'd never done the pace group thing. I usually go off feel, but I said, you know what, my best case scenario is running even first split, even second half of the race. So not trying to go out too fast and burning out. Everybody knows that the best marathons are if you can do even splits or maybe even pick it up a little bit in the second half. So I knew that I needed to, conserve any bit of energy because there wasn't going to be a lot of extra energy. I knew that we were going to be close. I had to run 6:49 pace. So we locked in with this pace group and they did a great job. So we went through the first half at 1:29.12 through the first half. So we were ahead of pace, but Ross and I talked and we were like, I was kind of hoping this would feel a little better than it does. It didn't feel easy by any stretch, but we were running together. And then, at some point you just start to think, all right, I've got 10 miles to go, 8 miles to go. And then it's like, all right, now we just got to get to the finish line. Now the best way to run this race is just to try to lock in and get to the finish line as fast as possible, which was going to be a sort of even pace. So you come off this bridge on mile 15, mile 16, where there's nobody there. And so I'm still running with the pace group there. And then you get down on First Avenue and Ross was looking for his wife. And I was
looking for your wife too. And she just wasn't
she was
there.
home. Yeah, she was home. We went through this like emotional moment for him. He's looking for his wife. So he's like darting ahead. So my buddy Ross is, and he's better shape than me. So he was kind of off to the races and left the pace group behind. But for me, and I sort of described this a little bit in the video right after, that's on runpacers.com. Go check it out. I got down to First Ave and I remember my first marathon in 1999. I visualized seeing my parents there. And like in the sea of people, somehow I saw my parents on mile 17. And, my dad, of course, who passed away 6 years ago, was there. And I remember giving him and my mom like a high five. And like that really gave me the boost of energy to have this awesome last 8 miles of the race. And I felt the same thing, honestly, that day, 2 weeks ago, like they were there. And so it really gave me a boost of energy, and I probably ran my fastest mile there, mile 17 to mile 18. And, then we dropped the pace group, and then it was just like, my thoughts were, all right, let's get to 19, let's get to 20, let's stay at 650 pace, 48 pace.
And what's hurting at this point? Like,
so, yeah, I mean, my quads are starting to hurt, and you just can't get the same leg lift. And, I've got this little bit of a cramp. It feels like coming on, but I'm like, a side stitch type thing, but I kind of will that away. But you just can't lift your legs like you could before. So then I start thinking in miles late in the mile, 22, 23, just like, I just want to keep up the same rhythm. I just keep saying to myself, same rhythm, because once you stop, like, isn't inertia like a body in motion tends to stay in motion or something like that?
Wow. Look at you.
I listened in high school. That's the only thing I can take away from it. But if you stop at that point, you're not going to get to that rhythm again. So you just got to keep going and just got to get to mile 24 and 25 and 26. So mile 23 is like uphill in the park. And I seem to forget that every single year. So it's an uphill mile. And at that point, since I'd been texting everybody that morning, my watch dies. So note to self, don't, text on your watch before the New York City Marathon. So I get through that mile. And then at mile 24, I'm like, I'm not sure I'm going to do it. But then it's just all a battle of wills, and just need to continue on as much as I can, stay in that rhythm. And somehow I made it through. And then there's the pictures of me towards the end, and I look so bad. It was so bad.
To be fair, there's no one that looks good at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, I got a video of you from my boss, Melanie. She was in the grandstand at the finish line, and she sent this video within seconds of you crossing, and it looked like you were in pain. It just looked like I've seen you finish a lot of marathons before, and you were definitely dragging. And for those of us who were watching, which all 5 of us who were tracking you, just kidding. I think you probably had a lot of people tracking you. But for those of us tracking you, like it got a little scary, I think, at the end, because you could tell like a couple of the miles were starting to get a little bit struggle-ish.
Yeah.
It's not a word, but I just made it up.
Yeah,
but you were starting to struggle. And I was getting nervous because I was like, ooh, just hang on, in the same way that you're telling yourself you got to just keep that rhythm going, exact same rhythm.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to think about for you at that point. Because like if 1 mile goes south, it all goes south, right?
Yep.
And when you're talking about, just dipping under by a minute or two, I mean, in a marathon, it's not like you go from 650 pace to 655 pace to 705 pace. You go from like 650 to 720 to 8 minutes to 8.5. Like
and
that.
1 8-minute, and I knew this, so I knew 1 8-minute mile was going to finish my race. So I knew I had to keep very close to that rhythm. And I also felt like because as I was running 650 pace, I felt like 730 mile was going to cook my race too, because 730 turns to 830.
Yeah.
And then to 930, and there was no room for margin. I think it was actually good that I didn't have my watch working towards the end. They had clocks along the way, but I finish and I look like hell, and I'm just so relieved because.
Wait, so your watch dies, but it doesn't count if you can't upload it to Strava. So can you actually?
I uploaded the picture to Strava.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so a couple people, I think Danza asked me, like, does this count? This is a manual upload. I'm like, my watch is not as good as the tracking system the New York City Marathon has. So Danza, it counts.
Yeah.
So it was the last bit was tough, but it was a huge sense of relief when I finished. And I felt like a lot of people were watching, whether it was just the 5 that were or not. I felt like a relief, and I wanted to not let down people who were watching. So it was really special. Honestly, it was really special because it was really hard.
Yeah.
And it almost didn't happen. And second half of the race, I ran 1:29:08. Ran 1:29:12 first half, 1:29:08, 4 seconds faster the second half.
You always negative split your marathons too. So that was barely.
Barely. So total time of 2:58:20.
I'm
proud. I'm really proud of it.
And I think the biggest relief for you coming across the finish line was like that the locks weren't going to be changed when you came home.
I did.
That like all that early morning getting up, bailing on your wife and the newborn and the 5-year-old and the 3-year-old was all going to be worth
and
it.
I got to go, and I know we got to get out of here. We got to finish up, but I for the record, I do thank you. Like seriously, I really appreciate you've done all the heavy lifting with Julian at night and for this dumb streak that is very meaningful to me and emotional for me. This one was different because I felt like there was a lot of headwinds, and I'm really proud of the streak, not because I broke 3 hours, because there's thousands and thousands of people who can break 3 hours. I think it's really important to show up every single day and do something over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
I think to do something great, it's got to be over the period of years. Mm-hmm. And it's not over the period of weeks or months or a year. It's over the period of years. And I think this is, again, there's many people who are much more talented, many people who can do this, many people who can run way faster. My buddy Philippe Raleigh, who's 52, he just ran 2:31 in the marathon. He's a local guy who would crush this streak. But for me, it's showing up every single day, doing something that's kind of hard that you say you're going to do, and then not being sure whether you can do it or not. I think that's so important, to put yourself out there and do things that you're not sure you're going to be able to accomplish. And don't be afraid to say it. And so I'm proud of that. And I don't know how long I'm going to be able to make this thing last. How long?
Well, at least 2 more years.
But at least 2 more years. But it does take a lot of support from the family. So
from Chris McGarrigle.
Yeah. So.
Well, I love it. Thanks for sharing the story. I actually learned some things. So maybe that means I either A, wasn't listening to all of your recaps at home, or B, really walking through it like this kind of brings back the actual place and time and kind of going through the motions, which is powerful. And the coolest part about marathons is that your journey is a unique journey that happens there, but everybody's journey is also unique, right?
Yep.
What people have gone through to get to the starting line, what people are running for when they're out there, like the moments like where you're visualizing seeing your mom and dad on First Avenue, like what people are experiencing out there is just this element of humanity that is so hard to capture unless it's in this high moment of stress.
Yep.
And when you watch people come across the finish line of New York City Marathon or any of the major marathons, like you can just visualize what it is that they're experiencing and what pain or what trauma that they're fighting for, or what goal they're trying to accomplish, or what has led to this moment for them. It's just so powerful, and it's not something that can be captured by a massive audience in any other sport. So that is what makes marathoning so special. It's what makes your stories unique and special. And look at me, I'm actually supporting you in this moment.
I appreciate it. I know you do.
This
So I love you
was,
for it.
yeah. And so, we're proud of you. I think I messaged you that weekend and said, no matter what happens, like, we know that you're going to do the best that you can, and you don't have to do this for us. You can do it if it's possible. But as the weekend went on, I just kept saying, like, this is Chris Farley. Like, he's going to find a way, like the timing of his cold, it like peaked on Friday and it started to come down a little bit. Like, that's the way. I think you literally just snuck it in timing wise to be able to get out there and get after it and get it done. And anyway, everyone that's listening probably right now is like, okay, shut it down. We don't need you guys gushing about each other. This is embarrassing. But we love it. Thank you for sharing. I hope I get a check mark for being an okay host today.
Great job.
And I'm just excited about this new chapter for Pace the Nation.
All right, we'll take a quick break and we're gonna just go over some final thoughts. But yeah, A+ on the interview.
Oh, thanks. Appreciate it.
Take a quick break. We'll be right back after this.
Pace the Nation is brought to you by Pacers Running Stores. Pacers has 6 stores in Northern Virginia and DC. For the best running footwear, apparel, and gear, just stop by or schedule a virtual fitting with the best running experts in the business. Pacers Running exists to help as many people as possible through running. For every run, it's Pacers Running.
All right, welcome back to the program. Great job, Julie.
Thanks.
Appreciate you doing the heavy lifting on that interview. I hope people enjoyed my recap of the 2021 New York City Marathon, my experience. Of course, this podcast is sponsored by Pacers Running. Pacers Running with 6 area DC locations. Pacers Running is for every run. It's the holiday. It's the holiday season. It's coming up. Thanksgiving. You'll probably hear the show after Thanksgiving. So Christmas holidays are upon us. Hanukkah, anything that you celebrate, come to Pacers Running. Check us out, runpacers.com. Check us out in our stores. There's a lot of supply chain issues. Pacers Running has the gear you want, the gear you need. So we would love for you to check us out, runpacers.com, or in our 6 area locations. So Julie, holidays. We're headed to our annual trip to New Jersey. And then we'll be back here in Arlington. You're back to work. You were off for how many months?
3 months.
3 months. So I think you timed this really well because you came back for a little bit and now you got the holiday break here where it's like nobody really works.
Except when you haven't worked in 3 months.
That's true. Nobody really works between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Did you think about that aspect when you said, all right, this is when I'm going to come back from maternity leave?
The answer depends on who's listening to this podcast right now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big reasons I came back when I did, and I'm in a part-time capacity right now, through the new year, 3 days a week, was there's just things that kind of have to be lined up heading into a new year. I work on a lot of athlete contracts and working with agents and kind of getting everybody situated, essentially heading into a new Olympic cycle, which is bizarre going into 2022 that we're starting a new Olympic cycle. But with 21 being the Olympic year, things are a little bit thrown off. So there's a lot of stuff going on there. But yeah, the holidays, I kind of looked at like, all right, I'm going to come back part-time, but then the holidays are going to be part of the mix there too. And so I just figured it would be an easy transition coming back. But I've done a lot of travel so far. I've been back for 3 weeks and I was in New York City. I was in Seattle last week with the Beasts, our professional track club, our home team in Seattle. And I'm heading today actually. And, again, timing of when this releases, but JFK, the 50 mile is tomorrow, and Brooks is a new proud sponsor of JFK. So I'm heading there this afternoon to support some of our athletes and our events team that's helping execute. So, and actually Julian's coming with me. So, but very much looking forward to the holidays to answer your question.
And I wanted to mention, I mentioned that because related to the podcast, there will be some travel. I mentioned earlier, we'll be in Austin. And actually we will be broadcasting, or I will be broadcasting with Ultra. So that's really exciting. So look forward to that. There is an event there every year, the running event. We've podcasted from there before, and we're really excited that Ultra is allowing us to sit down with some of their elites and tell their stories. So look forward to that. And our guys behind the scenes are hopefully going to be able to coordinate maybe even a live broadcast that we can interact with the audience with. So a lot of great things to look forward to. Holidays, during the holidays, that'll be mid-December. So make sure you check out at Pace the Nation on Twitter, and of course at Run Pacers on all platforms. All right, great show.
Yeah,
you gotta go. I gotta go. Thanks to our guy Chris for helping us make this possible today.
I love the new format. It's
new
really cool.
Format's awesome. We'll talk about it more when we sort of understand it better and the bells and whistles we can do. But this is really cool, and it was super smooth. And I think when we add guests for our next show, I think it'll be seamless. So
I agree.
All right, awesome, great job, Julie. Thanks to our guest, Chris Farley, today. Oh, that's me. Thanks to our guest.
Thanks to our guest, Chris Farley, today.
Yeah, for joining us.
You can check him out at Run Pacer.
Yeah,
if
correct.
If you want to follow him on his social media platforms.
Yeah. If you don't have enough about me, if you haven't gotten enough,
if you want more Chris Farley in your life.
Yep. Check me out on Run Pacer. And you're at Julie Cully. And the show, of course, is at Pace the Nation and Run Pacers on all platforms for our stores. All right. Thanks again. Great show. For Julie Cully, I'm Chris Farley. This is Pace the Nation. We'll see you next week.